Illinois, Garrett's Chicago Mix. Chicago has a 75-year-old obsession with a flavor combination that shouldn't work. It comes from Garrett Popcorn, a city institution, famous for a Chicago mix that pairs sweet caramel crisp with savory cheese corn. The caramel is cooked in copper kettles until it develops a hard glass-like shell that seals the popcorn inside. It's then tossed with another popcorn that's been coated in sharp, aged cheddar, the kind that leaves a heavy orange dust on your fingers. The reason this mix is so addictive comes down to how salt interacts with sugar. The cheddar doesn't just provide a contrast, the salt actually suppresses the bitter notes of the burnt sugar in the caramel, which makes the sweetness taste even better. It creates a high-retention flavor loop where your palate never gets tired, explaining why there's been a permanent line outside their Michigan Avenue shop since 1949, and why you'll keep eating it until you're sick to your stomach. Indiana, Albany's Gummy Bears. While gummy bears are a global commodity, Indiana has a localized obsession with Albanese. Based in Merrillville, Albanese gummy bears have developed a cult following by solving the biggest problem with traditional gummies: chew fatigue. Albanese gummies are famously softer than their competitors. They use a specific gelatin-to-pectin ratio that allows for a more immediate release of flavor. They're also known for their 12-flavor variety, which includes more distinct fruit profiles like grapefruit and huckleberry. This dedication to quality has turned the Albanese Candy Factory into a beloved Indiana institution, where locals and tourists alike line up for everything from gummy sharks and army guys to chocolate-covered bears. Iowa, Twin Bing. The Twin Bing is a quintessential Iowa-only snack. Produced by the Palmer Candy Company in Sioux City since the 1920s, it consists of 2 mounds of cherry nougat coated in a mixture of dark chocolate and crushed roasted peanuts. The Twin Bing is defined by its bumpy exterior and its sweet cherry flavor. The use of crushed peanuts in the coating provides a necessary saltiness that cuts through the density of the cherry center. It's a texture-heavy snack that has remained a regional staple because of its complexity: sweet, salty, crunchy, and chewy. Aside from the Goo Goo cluster, few candy bars pull that combination off quite this well. Kansas, Valamilk Candy Cups. The Valamilk is one of the most famous happy accidents in candy history. In 1931, a Kansas candy maker at the Cyphers family factory accidentally added too much vanilla to a marshmallow batch, preventing it from setting. Rather than scrapping it, they poured the runny marshmallow into chocolate cups. The result is a snack that is notoriously difficult to eat, but entirely worth it. Unlike a Reese's cup, which is self-contained, a Valamilk features a liquid marshmallow center that flows out the moment the chocolate shell is pierced. Now in its 5th generation of family ownership, Valamilk remains the only product the company makes, relying entirely on a 90-year-old mistake that became a Midwest icon. Michigan, Sanders Bumpy Cake. In Detroit, the Sanders Bumpy Cake has been a staple since 1875. It's a devil's food cake topped with parallel bumps of buttercream, all of which is enrobed in a pour of hot fudge that sets into a thin, snappy shell. The bumps aren't just for decoration, they provide a specific ratio of frosting to cake in every bite. The buttercream used for the bumps is denser than standard frosting, allowing it to maintain its shape under the weight of the warm fudge. For over a century, this cake has been the default celebration food for Michigan families, surviving several ownership changes of the Sanders brand because the recipe is essentially an edible piece of Michigan history. Minnesota, Old Dutch Dill Pickle Chips. While dill pickle chips are now a national flavor, they have a deep-seated history in the upper Midwest. Old Dutch, headquartered in Minnesota since 1934, is the brand that defined the flavor for the region. Unlike national brands that often balance the pickle flavor with sweetness, Old Dutch chips are known for a strong, vinegary brine profile. They're a staple of Minnesota cabin culture, the tradition of heading to the state's many lakes for the weekend. The brand's loyalty is so high that Old Dutch remains the dominant chip in Minnesota grocery stores, outperforming national competitors by leaning into that specific high-acid tang. They also make many other popular options, including salt and vinegar, sour cream and onion, and their thick-cut Ripple chips. Missouri, Cherry Mash. Produced by Chase Candy Company in St. Joseph since 1918, the Cherry Mash is one of the oldest candy bars in the country. Now, if this sounds exactly like the Twin Bing we just talked about, you aren't crazy. They're essentially regional doppelgangers. But while the Twin Bing has a milder, sweeter center, the Cherry Mash uses real maraschino cherries in its soft nougat, resulting in an intense, in-your-face cherry flavor coated in milk chocolate and roasted peanuts. While today's Cherry Mash is a standard candy bar size, A key to its early legendary status was that it launched as a massive quarter-pound mound. That insane original size, combined with high-salt peanuts cutting through the heavy sweetness of the cherry, created an incredibly dedicated fan base. In fact, the regional loyalty is so fierce that when Walmart suddenly dropped the candy after decades, taking a $200,000 bite out of their sales, the company president shrugged it off, saying, "As long as our loyal fans stick with us, we'll be around for another 150 years." Nebraska, the Runza. The Runza is a unique hybrid of American fast food and Eastern European tradition. Originally brought to the Great Plains by German-Russian immigrants, it's a yeast dough bread pocket traditionally filled with a savory blend of ground beef, cabbage, and onions. In 1949, a local woman named Sally Everett started selling her family's recipe at a drive-in, trademarked the name, and formalized it into the Runza restaurant chain. Unlike a burger, the Runza is steamed from the inside as it bakes, allowing the juices from the beef and cabbage to soak into the dough. Today, the sandwich is so synonymous with Nebraska that the chain operates almost exclusively within the state's borders. It's essentially the In-N-Out of the Midwest, except instead of traditional patties, they sell meat-stuffed bread pockets. North Dakota, Dot's Pretzels. Dot's Pretzels is one of the most successful home kitchen stories in American snacking. Started by Dorothy Henke in her North Dakota kitchen in the early 2000s, these pretzels became a regional obsession before being acquired by Frito-Lay in 2021. If you're one of those people who only eats pretzels when there's nothing else left in the pantry, Dot's will completely change your mind. The secret starts with the pretzel itself. Instead of a standard hard twist, Dot's uses thick, butter-braided sticks that have a rich, crumbly snap to them. Then, they are completely coated with a heavy blast of buttermilk, garlic, onion, and a hint of cayenne. Because the seasoning gets trapped deep in the ridges of the braid, every single bite is packed with so much flavor that it's almost impossible to put the bag down. Ohio, Buckeyes. Named after the nut of the state tree, the Buckeye is Ohio's signature homemade candy. It's a ball of peanut butter fudge partially dipped in dark chocolate, leaving a small circle of the light-colored peanut butter exposed to mimic the appearance of the Buckeye nut. If you attend a tailgate, graduation, or wedding anywhere in Ohio, a platter of homemade Buckeyes is practically mandatory. The secret to their incredible popularity is in the recipe. To hold the iconic shape during the dipping process, the peanut butter is mixed with a heavy dose of butter and powdered sugar, resulting in a dense, melt-in-your-mouth fudge that blows standard store-bought peanut butter cups out of the water. South Dakota, Chislic. In South Dakota, the most popular local bite is Chislic. Introduced by Russian-German immigrants in the late 1800s, it consists of cubed red meat, traditionally lamb or mutton but often beef or venison, that is deep-fried and served on toothpicks. The dish was originally brought over as a Russian grilled skewer called shashlik, but early settlers on the treeless Dakota plains didn't have the wood required for an open grill, so they adapted by tossing the meat into a pot of boiling fat instead. Today, the high heat of the modern fryer creates a perfectly seared exterior while keeping the center incredibly juicy. Served with garlic salt and a side of saltine crackers, it's so ingrained in the culture that the state legislature actually passed the law naming Chislic the official state nosh of South Dakota. Wisconsin, fresh cheese curds. In Wisconsin, the mark of a perfect snack is a squeak. Cheese curds are the fresh, raw nuggets of young cheddar before they're pressed into blocks and aged. During the cheesemaking process, milk separates into liquid whey and solid curds. The cheesemakers stack these warm curds into giant slabs to press out the moisture, chop them into bite-sized pieces, salt them, and bag them up immediately. The famous squeak is a matter of science. It's the sound of the tight, fresh protein fibers in the cheese rebounding against the enamel of your teeth. Because those proteins begin to break down within hours of being made, a true Wisconsinite considers a curd stale the second it stops squeaking. In Wisconsin, fresh means the curd was likely made that exact morning, making it a snack that's almost impossible to export without losing its defining characteristic. The Midwest relies on the classics, but out west, geography dictates the flavor. From high-elevation huckleberries in Montana to the isolated innovations of the Pacific Islands and the Alaskan tundra, this is where snacking gets truly experimental. Be sure to check out our next video to discover the best of them.